Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my Furia Valorant roster rebuild. I'm going to go through the whole team in this video, tell you guys who I think they should keep, who I think they should let go, and who they should pick up in their place. So this video should be pretty fun. I mean, Fury's been one of the worst teams in VCT for a while, so should be pretty interesting. I'll definitely preface this video with this is what I would do with the team, not necessarily what I think will happen. I definitely don't think this is what Furia is going to do with their roster. It is possible. I think the organization does have the money from like CS and stuff, but overall in Valorant, they haven't really shown that willingness to spend a ton. So it could get a little weird with what they end up doing in real life, but for what they're doing in here, we're going to operate under the assumption that we have a budget that we can sign pretty much anybody that we want from this team outside out of free agents and stuff like that. So should be pretty interesting. But before we get into it, I do need to say, if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps me out. Also, go check out my Twitter and my Discord. Links are in the description. I'll be reacting to any kind of roster news in the off season off that and any other like random Valorant news here and there. I also just made a TikTok. I had one before and I didn't really enjoy uploading videos on there, but I've come back with a new like passion. I've made a new account. So you can go check that out. Link is also in the description. I'll also be reacting to some roster news. I already made a TikTok about Koi. I also made a YouTube short on it. So all the same stuff from TikTok will probably be on YouTube most likely. So if you don't use TikTok, then obviously you don't need to go follow it. But if you are interested, you can go check that out. Also, I do stream sometimes. I'll probably be doing more VOD reviews, both for some scouting for this rebuild series, as well as some like pre-champions VOD review and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go follow me on Twitch or just turn on notifications here right on this YouTube channel where I do also stream. So if you're interested in any of that, go check out all of that stuff. Links are in the description, and let's get right into it. So with all of these videos, we do have to do a bit of a 2025 recap just to kind of talk about like what this team's expectations should be heading into next year. I mean, they won one game all year in VCT play. This team has been one of the worst teams of all time in 2025, mainly because their one win was with a substitute roster. So not great there. They just haven't looked competitive at any point throughout the season. They had a few like fluky map wins and stuff like that in stage one, where like the team was really good at Lotus and they beat like I think NRG and almost beat G2 on both of those maps, and they looked like relatively competitive then. But the rest of the split, not really. And then stage two has been even worse. Now, to be fair to them, they weren't playing with that full roster in stage two at any point because Basic was not able to get his visa in time to come into tier one. So not great there for the team. That's a little bit unlucky, but I don't think they would have looked that much better with Basic in the team, if that makes sense. So overall, obviously a really bad year for Furia. They've had some okay years before this, like in 2023. I thought they were a decent team at the very least, but not anything amazing. And 2024 was pretty bad as well. Not quite as bad as this year, but still very bad. And they're going to need to see some improvement, like in terms of both investment and like how much they actually care about the scene if they're going to stay in the league in 2027. So that's going to be a big thing for Furia, is being able to stay in VCT. And for 2025, our goal is to make a Brazilian roster entirely out of free agent talent. Um, there can be some exceptions, obviously. They could have some buyouts, but I think there will be a decent amount of free agents this year for Brazil, between 2G not having contracts into next year with the team not having it. There's some other players that I think are going to get, or either in my world, are going to get cut from teams or are out of a contract in 2024 in terms of, or in 2024, in at the end of 2025, and could potentially sign anywhere that they want. Then we have to move on to the actual players that we have to work with. Now, we only have one expiring contract, which is Adverso, which in real life it might have already expired anyway. But we basically get to pick and choose from the current roster who we want to keep and who we want to let go. You have four 2027 contracts, which is kind of weird to me because, like, you'd think if they're just signing them for stage two to like get ready for next year, it'd be like a 2026 contract. So they might not have to pay extra stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know the language of the contract, so I'm not going to really criticize their contracts stuff unless it's like super short ones, if that makes sense. So going into what we're actually going to do with these players, we are going to get rid of all four players except for Heat, and then also let Adverso's contract expire. We'll talk about the guys that we're cutting first. Urengo has been one of the worst players in VCT history. Now, I do beg to differ with him actually being the worst. There are a few players that I think were worse than him in 2023 specifically. I'm not going to name them. Obviously, that's kind of weird, but I think Durango has not been the worst, but has been very bad for Furia. 2Es, I think, hasn't been the same player in a while. He has been like he like is okay with his util and is like not really great with like the mechanic stuff. Like there's definitely better spokes players out there in tier two than 2Es. And then Paula, I've believed in Paula quite a bit, and I actually think in a more functional team he could be better. I just don't think there's enough slots in Brazil in terms of duelist players for him to actually get a real chance at tier one. Um, and maybe that'll come with a 2027 switch up to more like with the South American League. That could help him. It would take something like that though for Paula to actually get into tier one at this point because he's had multiple stints and hasn't been very good. Or he hasn't been really good. Like he had some games and some moments for this Furia team where I was like, wow, Paula actually looks pretty good there. But he just wasn't like doing enough really to take over this game. And I think there's other duelist players out there that I would prefer to pick up. And then basic, I mean, just doesn't get a chance on Furia here, but I watched him in tier two a little bit. I wasn't super impressed with him. And I'm going to decide to go in a different direction, mainly with Heat, who is going to be role swapping for our team. He was playing a lot of Senti for Furia this year, which I don't think he was very good at. But previously, he was playing a lot of Initiator, like flashes and Recon for Crew. And with the added flexibility of playing Senti, which I think I mean, I said he wasn't very good at, but he's actually like okay at it at this point. Like stage two, I thought he was better than stage one at it. But he would need to role swap to more just hard initiator for this team to actually keep him around. And that's what we're going to end up doing. And I think he will be pretty good at it because he was very good at it for crew last year at the end of the year. So just keeping Heat going into 2026 for this Furia team, but that's not very surprising. I think most people would probably cut the entire roster. So now onto the potential options for all of these roles. For Sentinels, you have Silence, Swag, and potentially less if he decides to leave Vitality. For Duelist, you have Spike, Silence, Loss, and potentially Ospas if he decides to leave MIBR. His contract is up, so he can really do whatever he wants. He is a potential option for this team. For Scan Initiators, you have Desire, potentially Cowanzine, for if he leaves Loud. I forgot to put the question mark next to him. I think actually his contract is up as well, so I didn't put it next to him because he is a available free agent. And then Sadak also is a potential scan initiator and an IGL. I think fits as well, but depends if he leaves Karmine Core. His contract is up as well, I believe. For controllers, you have LZ from 2G and then Brinks as well from Tier 2. I don't really have too many Tier 2 players on here. I didn't go super deep in Brazil yet because I think for this Furia team, I kind of wanted to keep it with some of the other players. You'll see pretty much with what this roster ends up looking like. So for our duelist player and slightly our flash initiator, we have Spike. I mean, he's just one of the most promising young duelists in VCT Americas overall. Like his stage 2 was really good. I honestly had him ranked pretty lowly in my duelist rankings, but that's because like duelist players, like there's so many good ones in Americas, so it's kind of hard to. But I do think there's slight concerns with his flexibility. For specifically with the duelist agents, he really only plays Neon and Yoru, and his Yoru isn't that good. But I do think he can play some other initiator to make up for it in those gaps that he leaves with the duelist picks. I also have some other pickups lined up that can potentially let him move to other roles and Heat move around to other roles, as I mentioned with Heat being able to play some of the other Sentinel stuff as well. So That's a good sign for this team. Just being able to be flexible and let Spike play what he's good at. So for our team so far, you have Spike and Heat. Now moving on to our Scan Initiator and IGL. And I mean, who else is it going to be other than Sadak? I mean, he doesn't really have to be a pure scan player. He could be that flex flashes player that Heat could be, and then Heat could play mostly recon, which I think he's good at. This team can really has so much flexibility now, adding in Sadak as well with Spike. But the conversation with Sadak isn't all positive, I don't think. He hasn't had the best past 2 years on Loud and Karmine Core. Specifically, Loud, I think, was pretty bad. And then Casey, I think, has more to do with the comps and getting a little too crazy at certain points. I think if he can rein in playing some of these crazy comps, you get him a coach that will actually say, hey, we are going to do this. You just have to understand what this comp does and call it correctly. I think he would look so much better with that. I mean, he could even play like a kind of weird comp or two here and there, and I think that'd be fine. But he can play Scan, he can play Flashes, he can play Senti, as well as potentially a little bit of Viper, which he's played in the past, but I don't love putting IGLs on Viper unless you're John Cutie. Then he can do it, obviously. But I just think Brazil overall as a region has missed having that like top tier best, like one of the best IGLs in the region like him. And I think honestly the whole region will be better having him back, because if the team that he's on is good, then the other Brazilian teams are going to be like, okay, we're going to watch this team that's in our region. We know the players, we know the people on the team, and we're going to copy their stuff, like maybe some NA teams do with G2 and Sen, like a lot of EMEA teams do with Fnatic, like a lot of Pacific teams. I mean, I don't think teams really try to do it with Paper Rex, but like maybe the Korean teams copy Gen G, some of the APAC teams try to copy Paper Rex. Like, I do think there is interregional stuff like that that is pretty important, honestly. And I think Sadak will actually be a help to all of Brazil if he does come back. Not just this Furia team, which he will be insanely helpful for, being the scan initiator or flex and IGL. Then moving on to our controller player, we have Brinks. He's just another really good smokes player coming out of Tier 2 Brazil, which hasn't been shocking at all in these past few years. I mean, you have Cortez, Genom, Khalil's had his really good games. There's other guys in there as well that I can't think of. Pancada as well. He's been really good. Tui's, when he came out, was really good. Like, Brazil does have really good smokes players, and I think Brinks will be the next one. I mean, he has really good mechanics, like not really to the level of Cortez and what Genom is at times, maybe a little bit behind Genom, but not too far off. But absolutely good enough to compete at tier 1 level. His aggression and his like willingness to take timings and like play inside and around his smokes is the main thing that I noticed with him, especially when he plays the Brimstone. I think he's really good with that on Bind. He can play some Senti as well as his smokes, which is really good for added flexibility in this team if you need to play like a double controller comp and maybe you want to move Heat onto like an Omen or something. He could play the Killjoy, and then like I don't know, our Senti player here could play the Viper. I don't know. Whatever you really want to do with this team, you can move the players around to where they are best in each role. You don't have to I hate when teams switch up roles depending on map a ton. Obviously, when you have players like Spike and Silence, it's okay. Oh, well, I just leaked the other player, so whatever. But when you have players like Spike who like can play a few duelists and not all of them, then it's fine. Or like Cryo and Asuna, I think that's okay. But you don't want it to be like Team Secret where they're swapping roles every map, even when they don't need to. I think with this Furia team, you're putting players that are good on their roles on each role, and you can kind of change them up depending on the map. So for our team here, you have Brinks added in on top of Spike, Heat, and Sadak, which we've already talked about. And then for our Sentinel player, we do have Silence, who I kind of just leaked pretty much without even getting to it. But Silence will be our Sentinel player here and a bit of Duelist player. I think he fills in the gaps that Spike leaves in terms of like playing the Jet and even the Raze, which I honestly didn't even realize before I started looking into this video that Spike doesn't play Raze. I think he should play Raze and he would actually be good at it. But I think Silence had a really good stage 2, finally being repaired with Spike. Um, and I think Spike kind of needs a player like Silence where he can come in and play the Jet and the Raze and stuff like that. Whereas if Spike had to play it, it might not be as good. I also think Silence is one of the top 5 oppers in Americas and lets you play maybe like some chamber comps here and there, add some more flexibility, lets you do some other weird stuff. And I do think his Senti anchoring ability isn't great, but it has gotten a lot better in stage 2. And I think he's one of the most improved players from stage 1 to stage 2 overall in VCT. And we're going to bring him up from 2G after they got relegated to play on this Furia team. So our final roster here is Spike, Heat, Sadok, Brinks, and Silence. Now, I think a lot of these non-Sadok players, people are going to be like this team isn't going to be that great. But I do think Sadok in the past has been really good at developing really good Brazilian talent. And I think all of these players fall under that canopy, especially Spike and Silence, who have proved at a tier 1 level that they have a ton of potential. And I mean, Heat has in the past as well. You just got to see it again. So what I would do with these roles actually isn't even what is shown here. I would have Sadak be your kind of flex player that can play a little bit of Flash Initiator, a little bit of Sentinel, depending on the map and what you need. Can also play or some recon here and there. If you want to move Heat over to maybe a more just recon focused role and then have him play a tiny bit of Omen here and there, have him do like the tens thing with the Omen. I think he would be pretty good at that. Just be like a super aggressive kind of Omen in a double controller comp is what I mean by the tens thing. And then Brinks, I think, mainly going to play controller for this team, Omen, Brim, Astra, all that stuff, but can also play some Sentinel and some Viper, I think. I think especially the Viper will be pretty important for him on double controller comps. And then Silence will play the last fill, whether it be Sentinel or Viper or something like that, or Duelist. They can even play double Duelist with this team as well, with Spike and Silence. There's a ton of different options with this team and what you can do, and I find that really fun. So let me know what you guys think of this team in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.